Today I'm joined by Almira Bardai of Ascension Sanctuary. Almira, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. And thank you for having me, Karen.
It's my pleasure. Let's get into it. I'm really excited to hear all about your story. Can you share a little bit about your background and how you got started in what you're doing today?
Yeah. It's a long career. This is the time where we sit back and reflect how long you've kind of been doing things for. Original and I guess corporate background is in public relations. And so, went through the university system. For anybody who might be younger looking at what they're going to do in life, I specifically chose a university that had the co-op program, which I thought was the best thing I ever did because you actually started working before you went into your field and experience, experience, experience. And I think it's for anything that you do in life, it's getting that experience. And then I worked for an agency in Canada. I was abroad for about 7 years working for various companies in London, UK, Australia, South Africa. That was just really part of my values about, just travel was huge for me. And then came back to Canada, set up my own PR and social media company, which I had for 10 years. We were one of the top boutique agencies in North America, multiple offices throughout North America, about team of about 50. And then I sold that and really moved into the coaching world. Originally working with clients on the strategic growth of their business, growing from 6 to 7 figures. But through that, where I'm now working at is actually working with women, not just entrepreneurs, corporate as well, or don't even need to be working. I think that would be fabulous if there was somebody who's just out there for their own growth. But it's called Ascension Sanctuary, where I work with women to internal growth, but not just affirmations or the surface stuff that gets you kind of just like inner success or how to be successful. It's also about moving into the feminine energies, and which I believe is just where the quantum leaps lie, but it's also where we get to know ourselves better. And alignment. So alignment with ease, joy, pleasure. Pleasure is a big one. When you talk to a woman, it's like, where do you feel pleasure? And well, first of all, it just thinks about erotic. But what about the pleasure in the everyday? So for example, I start my day with coffee by candlelight. And most people are just like, I just want that first cup of coffee, or I'm trying to get the kids out the door, or diving into the emails. But it's just that pause. How do I want to create my day? How am I the creator of my day, my life? And so really a lot of unbreaking or breaking of the rules that frankly don't exist. Let's talk about patriarchy another day. But it's just really about living life differently. And so that's really what I work with women on is that, aligning to grace, joy, pleasure, wealth, all the inner work.
I love that. You've clearly led an interesting path. What led you to focus specifically in the direction that you're working in now with women, working on that inner wisdom, the feminine energy? Was there a particular event or conversation or an aha moment that sort of was the impetus to this?
I think it was feeling the pull. And for me, because so much of my life has been quote unquote corporate or like, part of this entrepreneurship world and, corporate clients and things like that, there was an inner pull or yearning to do something different. But what I realized, and they say that when you do your own coaching, or you launch a coaching business, you end up getting coached yourself for the first few years, right? You are actually the student. You don't end up necessarily being the student. And I've talked to some master teachers, and they said when they first got started, they were doing videos with, you know, 10, 20 people seeing the video, and now they've got hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram. And that they're like, the hardest thing is a coaching business because you're going to come up against your own stuff, right? Or it is about cleaning up your internal game. And so I had this idea about teaching women how to grow their business from 6 to 7 figures because I just want to see more women succeed and have flexibility over their lives. That's such a big one. I became a mom in 2018. And as I went back to my business, because after I lined up the sale of my bigger business to be when I had my son, and I just, started consulting more, but just differently and just more aligned to how I wanted to live with having children. And I kept seeing all of these women, which to me was wild, how they even managed to balance it. But they would have to do school pickups, but the day doesn't end at 5. So they're working after work. And I'm just like, how do you even logistically accomplish managing this all. And I started to see that. And I also saw the benefit of my own flexibility because I work from home, I make my own hours. I essentially, I'm always like, all the moms at school are like, you're always just good to be here. I'm like, because I'm the world's greatest boss, you know? And I think it just came from a yearning to live differently, but I felt like I was having the calling to teach something. And it was about teaching women how to, have their own business or grow their business so they can lead the physical life that they wanted to, if that makes sense, to have the flexibility to be the best mom that they wanted to be present, stuff like that. And also to grow their business, with ease, because it's not easy to grow a business from 6 to 7 figures. And so, because I can really nail down strategy, or growth or something like that, or even just like cash flow, how to manage your cash flow, put profit first, how to actually work it back. Okay, here's how much profit I want in the business. Here's how to manage the cash flow. Here's the systems. Here's how I'm going to charge more. It was really looking at all the areas of marketing, cash flow, sales, revenue, patterns in your business. That's the big ones, the patterns in your business, team members, leadership, things like that. And then it really grew that there was like an internal calling. And it was a whisper. There's something else there. And I kind of just slowed down for the past couple of years because I was like, I really need to get clarity on this. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep, how they say the definition of insanity. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again with the same results. That's insane. And so I just started to live differently and took a softer approach to life, sat down more, took a lot off my plate. Honestly, I binge watched TV for a year. And it was something that I really needed for safety in my own nervous system. Personally, I've gone through a lot in the past 10 years. It has been a very hard ride in my personal life. And I was just like, I think my body was just like, and my brain were like, I just can't do this anymore. And so in taking this kind of personal break, I found a different way to live. And I'm so joyful. I'm so happy. I'm so at peace. It's not to say that's perfect. I mean, what is perfection? And kind of everybody started to take notice and they're like, what are you doing? And then it kind of just spread and felt good. And I think also is that a lot of aha moments have been going back to patriarchy. It's been about waking up to, well, what is the conditioning? Why are we doing this? Why or is women's power robbed or taken away? And how are we conditioned? And really waking up to realize that I'm actually the creator of my own life. And we all are. And I think we're also so busy just trying to like get things done and I've got to get this done. But whose rules are we ascribing to, or what are we actually trying to do? And we are literally the creators of our own lives. We are energy. If we are energy and everything is energy, then we are literally the creators of our own lives. And I think that was also a big wake up call to me, is where I'm at in life, not 100% happy, need to figure something out, got to fix it. But it was internal work.
I love that. No, clearly people around you, as you mentioned, have noticed it.
Yeah.
And it rubs off on your closest sphere of peers and people. So you work with women, and it sounds like there's a lot of energetic work. You give as one piece of advice for your clients this week when they go about trying to live their best life.
I think it would be, I mean, there's two, to be honest with you. There's that saying that it is, if you want inner peace or enlightenment, wash the dishes. We have so much of those dialogues going on in our head. And, it could be like you're scrubbing the dishes and your husband's not helping you and you're like, grr, why is he not helping me? Or it could just be about silences and stillness. Like, oh my God, to me, that is orgasmic, frankly, is just peace and quiet. And I have a 7-year-old boy. So there's some days I was like, please stop making so much noise, dude. Just sit down. But peace and stillness, I think that is so underrated. But I think the other advice is tap into that softness. And I say this with a bit of hesitation because I don't know if everybody feels it, because we are operating in such a fast world and a very technological world, right? Like when are you away from your phone, and if you're always in front of your phone, you're not getting that moment of softness and peace. But I think it literally is just taking that moment to just be with that softness, be with that quiet, because there's something there. And that's very much in the feminine. It's a texture, if you will. You can feel that texture, that softness. For me, it's, very buttery. It's very luscious. And when women start to feel that texture of that energy of life, there is something that is so addictive in there. And you want to kind of explore more and know more. And that is what I call, it's softness, it's ease, it's juiciness, it's beauty. And somebody listening to this might be like, women, how are you talking about like growing yourself and creating beauty? Like these are very abstract concepts. But to me, that's actually the living. That's where the growth is, right? Is in that softness, in that texture. And what do I want my life to feel like? Not because the universe is a reflection. And so if I want my life to be beautiful, to me, it needs to feel beautiful. And it also comes in being grateful for what you have right now, because again, we spend so much time with like chasing and outside world and stuff like that. But if you can't have that in your inside world in your own life, then you're gonna have to go out there and hustle it. I'm not interested in the hustle anymore. I want to magnetize it. And it's true about how it really just does happen.
I love that. So living life from the inside out instead of the outside in, and just creating that life of ease and magnetism.
Yes. And beauty, like we are women. I'm all about the beauty. And again, to me, it's an aesthetic, or it is about, the color of my couch, or what is it that brings me joy? And as women, I don't think that, well, I think we North American women, like we've not been taught about, what is sexy or how to dress sexy. It's like, wear black, and, or, you look at women in Paris who are chic, or Italian women. And again, to me, it's a texture, it's an aesthetic. And how do we bring that into our own environments, whatever it might be? I know 8-figure entrepreneurs who live and have a farm, and they wanted to have a farm in Maine, and that is their jam. And she homeschool her kids, and she's an 8-figure business owner. That would make me weep, Homeschooling, first of all, oh my gosh, I couldn't. Although my son is like, oh my God, it'd be so cool to stay home and learn with you, mama. And oh, please don't. It's not my idea of joy. And I think we all have individual versions of joy and happiness. And so again, for me, it's this intangible texture, this joy. What makes me happy? What authentically brings me joy? What makes me happy? What makes me feel relaxed? And when you're in that energy, just creating from there or doing from there it's so easy. It's hilarious. I went out with some girlfriends for dinner, a Christmas dinner on Tuesday. And we went to two places. One, we had drinks in this winter forest. And then we went out to this amazing new Indian restaurant. And at both places, okay, universe, they kept ringing up extra food to our table that we hadn't ordered. And so they would put a plate down, and we were like, we didn't order that. And well, I guess now that it's on the table, like they're gonna just leave it there. So we just had both restaurants extra food coming, and they were like, yep, this is yours. And they were the most expensive items on the menu. And put it down. We didn't order the steak, and they're like, it says it's for your table. We didn't order it. They're like, enjoy the steak. Here, have the prawns that were $40, and it's just the universe will deliver, and being awake to those miracles, it is.
What an amazing experience, and synchronicities that happen when you are in alignment and you have that energetic flow. If we shift gears for a second, what's been one of your biggest lessons lately?
That I had to take radical responsibility. Like, I'm a very responsible person. I'm a very self-aware person, but I had to take radical responsibility for how my life or dreams had or had not happened. I still made the choices that I did. I mean, I've had to make some choices under brutal circumstances. It was very survival. I didn't have all the information to know what I do know now. But I had to take radical responsibility, and then also look at, well, of course it's not turning out well. You have no standards or boundaries, Like I'm allowing this. I'm allowing this to happen to me. And it's a pattern. And, it's patterns of self-abandonment or holding standards about how people treat me. I thought, and I do think of myself as, very like casual, relaxed, like you be the most loving, wonderful human that you are. You be you, Karen. But when Karen doesn't treat me well and I'm allowing that to happen, that's on me, because my standards or my expectations or my belief about how I should be treated or about what's acceptable, that's me. That's not Karen. And I really had to look at that and see what part that I played, not because I was being a victim. I wasn't saying, well, it's, his fault or her fault or things like that. But it's like, well, if the universe is a match, the universe can only give me this because I'm actually right here, and for anybody listening, it's like, my hands are up, I feel like I have standards, but I'm accepting really low. And so I think that was the biggest lesson. And no wonder I'm in these situations because I keep allowing it. And it was quite a wake up call.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. One, it's creating the awareness that there are these issues and the root cause of them, and then resetting, like you said, boundaries, expectations, standards, so that people are living in alignment with what you're choosing and what you find acceptable. So you mentioned you've grown a business, you've sold it, you've grown another business now. We all know that real learnings come from times where things don't necessarily go right. What's one thing or a time or event that where something didn't work out the way you expected, and what did you learn from that?
I think it's actually been about this coaching business. And because for me, when I had my other marketing and PR agency, we were a multi-million-dollar business. I grew that business from literally nothing to multi-millions. And all of a sudden, you put me in a business that is done online with strangers. I think that's been a real learning curve, and learning how to do online marketing because, and this is so much about the nervous system. I've just finished a certification in the nervous system and actually connected with breathwork meditation and Kundalini yoga. Kundalini actually is our own internal life force, and how to turn it on to activate it so you're not always spent, healing your life. You can actually activate and do things. And in the nervous system, it's like literally my body is wired to go out the door or make connections and to win business. And that chasing, or I wouldn't say we chase, but it's still like it's very much a different can of worms than online marketing, where all of a sudden you've got strangers and you're trying to develop relationships or connect with people. Like I think that different way and rewiring my nervous system for that has been such like our body just wants safety. So we're just going to keep running these patterns and things unless we heal that. And so again, like I say, it was like being in this online world, and I'm like, it stressed me out. It made me feel like I was speaking into the ether. It made me felt like I was speaking to no one. It made me feel, it was, oh my gosh, so uncomfortable. And I was really also struggling to market this business. And finally, I was just like, why am I trying to write this? And this was back before, everybody started having the AIs to help them. But then I was, I finally had to stop doing the insane thing and doing the same thing over again. And I started a podcast. Like I love to talk, as you can tell, right? So it was like, woman, why are you just continuing to like fit into a mold or do it this certain way? And it was like, well, what way do you want to? And I'm like, oh my God, a podcast. And so I had to find my own way. But man, it was like banging my head against the wall. But then I realized I was banging my own head against my own wall that I've created. And I just really needed to start to get my body familiar, and also get my body familiar with something of this type of success. It feels like this way it's so uncomfortable. It's so outside my body. But I was like, I can actually teach my nervous system what's normal, and I just get it to me. It's like billionaires. They're used to being billionaires. God didn't just say you get to be a billionaire in this life, like they've done the work or whatever, generational wealth. But even for generational wealth, they are so used to money flowing all the time. That is their normal. And so, hey, the secret is have this all feel normal, that money is always coming to me. It's all like literally normalize everything. And then the world meets you. And I was like, what? I've spent so much time in like this discomfort of this online marketing, but all I had to do was make this normal and it becomes mine. And so that was an internal learning that and this again goes back to being the creator of our lives. I think actually that would be the third biggest lesson, is that we are the creators of our lives. And that's been another massive wake up call, aligning with radical accountability and responsibility. But like, what, I'm the creator, but I can create differently.
I love that. And on the flip side, what would be one of your biggest successes or proudest moments?
Yeah, I think it's actually about, there's a whole bunch of women now in Vancouver having coffee by candlelight in the morning. And yeah, because I told a friend of mine who told a friend of hers who told a book club. And so there's all of these women doing it. And I'm just like, I did that. But I think it's also about, this just living a beautiful life. It's been the most joyful thing. And it feels beautiful to me. Waking women also up to the divine feminine and to the feminine. I was working with one client and she was like, "Okay, I've got my strategy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this." And I was just like, I just want you to go sit down, get a blanket that feels cozy, be quiet, sit down, pay attention to stillness, and just feel that blanket. And you could literally see something come over her. Like she was like, "What the F?" And she was like, "I don't know what happened here." And she felt that feminine. She felt that joy. And she thought, "What is going on here?" And it was also so expansive. It's just, the point is not to feel a blanket. I mean, it is, but it's also just like this beautiful expansion and ease that women have. We're literally connected with creation. And for her, it was just this whole way. And she was just like, don't really care about the strategy. But then she easily went and did her to-do list, quote unquote, but it was a very, very different energy. And, we're taught to be operating in this masculine energy, which is like, go, do, which by the way is toxic masculine, hyper masculine. And it's just like, let's just be normal human people or energetic people. It's actually not that hard. And I think that's just been beautiful to learn that.
That's amazing. And I'm going to have to try that.
Tell me how it goes. Yes.
Coffee with the candle. I do like to start off slow, and I do like my morning cup of coffee, and I've never thought to try it with a candle. So I will have to report back to you on that. Almira, when you think about the next chapter, what kind of impact do you want to have?
I want people to know that they're the full creator of their lives, from an energetic, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, or if somebody listening is an atheist, just, you are the creator of your life. There's a beautiful universal energetic flow or divine intelligence, and it's literally a mirror. And there's so many stories that hold us back. If I become rich, I'll be a jerk, and blah blah blah. Like, let go of all that crap. Literally, just in the moment, aligns to me. Love aligns to me. Friendship aligns to me. I use examples of money a lot because it really is such a tangible and easy one to talk about. But it's like, forget all the stories. Just in the moment, this is who I am. I am wealth. And you feel that energy is just a reflection. As within, as without. That's literally the truth of it. As I feel or see within, the universe meets me. It's not about, God giving me this, or God, please help me get out of this. It's a beautiful reflection of us. You really are the creator. And everything can just change overnight, and it's so possible. So I guess I say this to people who, as you can tell, I'm totally into personal development, but anybody who feels like they're hitting this personal development wall, is like, stop doing all of that. Literally just stop that. Be in the moment. Stillness, calm. Just feel that good energy. There's no stories around that good energy. Literally, like, there's no story. There's no little stories floating around here. They're only floating around in my head and my emotions. And just like getting there, what is it that you feel? And just start to do that and be the creator of your life. And you will be astounded how good it gets. Literally, expensive dishes being put on my table at restaurants. And then that's the universe is just trying to say, like, it gets better, kid.
I love that. As we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with one key takeaway. For leaders navigating change in today's market, what piece of advice would you give them?
Personally, I've had so much change in my life that I think my nervous system crashed after some changes. And I'm not actually great with change. From a nervous system perspective, find safety in change. I think, like, there's so many big changes happening. I think we're also getting change overload and change fatigue. And it's like, sometimes our bodies, it all comes back down to the body. I think our body's just like, I can't do this anymore. It's like, I've been running a constant marathon or sprint, whatever. No, the sprint is the slower one. I can never figure it out. But it's like our bodies and our minds and our soul and energy is just like, that hyperventilation. I can't do more. And I think it's just slow down. Find safety. Safety is just like luxurious breathing, or it could even just be this repetitive movements. For me, it's tapping my knees or tapping my collarbone, clavicle. We actually hold so much anxiety in our collarbone and our clavicle. Take your shoulders away from the ears. They say that the most important move in yoga is to take your shoulders away down from your ears. Ha ha. Or that smile. Anyways, it's all the somatics of it, but it's just like, just take a moment, breathe, give yourself permission and to be okay with change, because I think we're also so caught up in this like constant change, gotta do this reaction. It's this reaction, with the money markets, politics, whatever, and just calm down and then give yourself permission to change because our safety selves, I think they're so overloaded. I'm not sure if they can even handle more change and handle change with clarity. And so again, it's that inner thing is just come back to yourself, calm down, take a weekend away, read a book, whatever, and then calmly start working through change. Because our bodies are just starting to shut down with all the changes that are necessary. And I'm not so sure that we're making clear, calm, confident decisions or choices. Like we're not choosing our responses. It's very reactive because we need to be, right? And so and then maybe from there you get really creative. Like maybe there's a great, brilliant business idea or some opportunity comes to you, or the clients come to you. And I just know this sometimes like things just pop up when I'm calm and clear and not chasing. They just do. And also being comfortable with the unknown. I think that's the other part of it is being comfortable because there's so much change and uncertainty out there that all you can do is laugh, that you can't control all the kind of craziness that's happening, right?
Yeah, I think you touched on a really key point is really giving yourself permission, I think is really key. I don't think speaking for myself, I don't think I do that at all. And I'm sure there's a few other people who are listening that would be applicable to. So it's giving yourself permission to change, give yourself permission to relax and hold still, right? Be okay with some stillness. And it's not just like you said about the chase.
And I think it also cultivates self-trust. I realized that I've had so much change in the past few years, like my body, and I couldn't even keep up with it. And in everything happening, I don't feel safe with change because ultimately I don't trust myself. I didn't trust myself not to make another mistake or to make a poor decision. And then I was like, but it was the best decision I can do in the moment. And what I did do from that decision is like magnificent. It's gorgeous, I can't believe I got through with it with so much like beauty and dignity. So I actually did well, but internally I wasn't trusting myself. And so I needed to give myself permission and safety with change, as opposed to all the crazy negative scenarios, worst case scenarios that can happen. So first is safety, permission, calm, and then self-trust. You can't build self-trust when you are under so much stress and pressure. The economy, business isn't going well. Are you really going to trust yourself, or all the doubts going to start coming in, But when you get to a place of calm, you start dancing with the possibilities. It's really about dancing with that energy, that divine intelligence, and things start to come up and creativity or things like that, So there's that story about Barbara Corcoran, the real estate developer, and she was literally on the verge of bankruptcy. And she was like, I should just save this money, or declare bankruptcy or something like that. And her mother was like, why do that? Just go out and make another $1 million. And Barbara was like, what? And her mother's like, there's no point in saving money. Money is money. What are you talking about? You'll just go and do it. And the next day, a $1 million contract came in for Barbara and saved her business. And she was like, Mom, what is it about not saving money? Go have fun with it, but it just shows things can change. It's about mindset or doing. And if whatever you're doing right now, like panicking about the economy, if that's not serving you, figure something out. It sounds easier said than done, though.
That's the key. Yeah. Nuggets of gold in all of that. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your learnings and experiences. Where can our listeners find you online?
Always best on Instagram, Almira B. When your name is Almira Bardai, you simplify everything. So go on to Instagram, Almira B, Almira B, and on there's all my links to my podcast, to my program, Ascension Sanctuary, and it's a beautiful immersive program for 6 months or longer if you desire. Almira Bardai on LinkedIn as well, but just do Almira B on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, it's much easier.
Perfect. We'll make sure those links are in the show notes. And Almira, thanks again so much for joining me on the Leadership Podcast. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I loved your questions. So I loved our conversation. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much. Thank you for spending your time with me today on the Leadership Lab podcast. My hope is that this conversation sparked a new perspective or reinforced something you already knew. Until next time, keep leading with curiosity and intention.